A few days ago, we got reports that someone had attempted to assassinate a Democratic mayoral candidate in Louisville, Kentucky. Shortly after, it was reported that a prominent Black Lives Matter activist, Quintez Brown, was arrested for this crime. Black Lives Matter has stepped up and used their bail fund to front the $100,000 bond to get this man out of jail. Now, I want to say, innocent until proven guilty, as I often do. I was not there. I did not witness this. I don't know exactly what happened. But according to a police report, this man was found and arrested near the election office of the Democrat in question, and he was carrying a loaded 9mm handgun, the same one reportedly used in the crime. According to the witnesses, the victims of this crime, fortunately no one was hurt. This man entered their office and was in close proximity when he opened fire. I think it's fair to say this is the guy who did it, but I still think innocent until proven guilty, so I'd like to see this proven in a court of law before I directly say he did do it. But it does show what many people are saying is hypocrisy and double standards. However, many others are calling this hierarchy. That is to say, if you support the establishment and their narrative, the media will give you a free pass. They'll ignore the story or they'll downplay it. My friends, this is a story of a Black Lives Matter activist being arrested, accused of trying to assassinate a Democratic candidate. Now, no one really knows why. The leading theory is potentially anti-Semitism. The Democratic candidate in question is Jewish. And we do know that Black Lives Matter does harbor seriously anti-Semitic views, very similar to the Black Hebrew Israelites or the Nation of Islam. Doesn't mean that's the definitive reason, but I think it is a potential reason. So many are wondering why the media is overlooking a potential hate crime here. You take a look at what happened in Waukesha when an SUV crashed, as the media reported. In reality, it was a man who harbored Black nationalist views who took his vehicle down a parade route of mostly white people and crashed into them. When Black Lives Matter is engaging in these crimes or actions of these extremist actions, the media will absolutely downplay it. Why? Well, you support the establishment narrative. We get it. The vice president will even fundraise on your behalf if you're engaged in this level of violence. Now, we know about the double standard. That we get. But there's something else here that I thought was really important to cover. The escalation. The narrative coming out from Black Lives Matter and from the defense attorney for this man, I believe it's a defense attorney, we'll get into the facts, is that he's mentally unwell. And that's why this happened. Well, sure, I think it's fair to say anybody who would do this is unwell. But could it be that this man is unhinged? Or could he be unwell because he's been deeply radicalized? There's an opinion piece I saw that I want to go over. It's titled something to the effect of, "What happened to Quintez Brown?" He was such a prominent figure. He had everything, his whole future in front of him. How did this happen? My friends, I'll say it for the millionth time. The culture war is over. It is not culture anymore. It is hot conflict. Some people have said, yeah, but why would a Black Lives Matter activist go after a Democrat? Because you need to seize control of your own nation before going to war with a neighboring nation. It's like, I'll put it this way, and I'll use the World War II trope. The Nazis didn't start invading Poland when they were a small political movement. No, they took over the country, then started invading other countries. Black Lives Matter is just an ideology. It's part of wokeism. It's part of this cult. They're not going to go and start trying to take everything over, going to war with Republicans until they have control of the larger base of power, the Democratic Party. Likely, there will be an internal civil war among Democrats before it reaches a higher level in the United States. Suffice it to say, though, we are seeing a heightened level of conflict in this country, and this is just an example of radicalization. I certainly think the man's unwell. But seriously, as I was reading this op-ed, asking the question of what happened to this guy, I thought to myself, what happened to him is he was radicalized online. And the media, supporting, for the most part, this worldview, overlooked the radicalization, overlooked the escalation, and pretended that it wasn't happening. I want to read this story about Black Lives Matter overtly, openly, and proudly bailing this guy out, which is another sign of radicalization, polarization, and potential civil conflict. Before we do, head over to timcast.com and become a member to help support our work. As a member of timcast.com, you are helping to keep our journalists employed so they can cover very important news stories. And you will also get access to exclusive members-only segments from the Timcast IRL podcast. So again, go to timcast.com, click sign up in the top right, support our work, but don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe to this YouTube channel right now. Share this video anywhere you can if you really want to support the work that I'm doing. Let's read this first story from Yahoo Finance. Louisville Bail Group posts bond for Quintez Brown, Craig Greenberg shooting case suspect, they say. His bond had been set at $100,000 Tuesday morning by Judge Annette Karam, which was raised at the request of the Jefferson County Attorney's Office after the figure was initially recommended $75,000. Brown will be subject to home incarceration. Brown, who is also a Metro Council candidate and former Courier Journal intern and opinion writer, has been charged with attempted murder and 4 counts of wanton endangerment after police say he fired a Glock handgun at Greenberg, with one of the bullets coming close enough to graze Greenberg's sweater. Brown also faces 4 counts of wanton endangerment in connection with the 4 Greenberg staffers who were in the room at the time of the shooting. He has pleaded not guilty. It's entirely possible he isn't. It's entirely possible they got the wrong guy. I'm leaning towards he probably did it. But again, everyone deserves their day in court. For the time being, it is an accusation. They say, according to an arrest citation, Brown was arrested 10 minutes later, about half a mile from Butchertown Market, the popular shopping center and business hub where Greenberg's election headquarters is located. Brown was in possession of a loaded 9mm magazine, along with a handgun case, and additional magazines, the citation said. His attorney, Rob Eggert, told the Courier Journal earlier Tuesday his client is severely mentally ill and needs treatment, not prison. Sounds to me like his attorney is basically saying, this is the guy who did it. Brown appeared to have had a mental health breakdown and hasn't slept for days or weeks, Eggert said. Chanel Helm, an organizer with Black Lives Matter Louisville, confirmed to the Courier Journal on Wednesday that the Louisville Community Bail Fund posted Brown's bail and said the group used money that had already been raised. Those behind the fund have previously worked to bail out others charged with crimes who can't make bail, including protesters arrested during the racial justice marches, riots, in the wake of Breonna Taylor's death. We have enough in to take care of him and connect him with mental health care, Helm said. We got a lot of money in 2020. We're doing exactly what we would do for anyone else in this situation. I'd like to take you back in time to 2020. Mass rioting, destruction, chaos. And when we had Black Lives Matter trying to shake down these businesses in Louisville, Kentucky, going to businesses and ordering them to sign a contract that would give portions of their revenue to these people. I believe that story was August of 2020. In one story, a Cuban restaurant owner in Louisville said BLM sent him a blackmail letter with diversity demands and that he was told to meet or risk social media shaming, a public boycott, and his storefront being effed with. In fact, they came to his business and smashed a flower pot. Now, they're claiming this guy is mentally unwell. Perhaps. I don't know or care. The fact is, they did front this. In this story from Fox News, we have a tweet from Rachel Droz TV showing a video. The $100,000 cashier's check has been officially given to the clerk's office to pay for BLM activist Quintez Brown's release. Louisville Community Bail Fund is paying. Brown is accused of shooting at Louisville mayoral candidate, run with Craig. Okay. If this person's being bailed out, well, then so be it. Again, innocent until proven guilty. I don't like the idea the state can hold someone unless you're detaining someone. You need some evidence. Now, that being said, I actually think that in cases like this, individuals should be held. In non-violent crimes, I believe people should be released. In cases of violent crime, if there is a preponderance of evidence, I believe it's fair to say, because of the severity of the crime, we think you should be held. The fact is, Black Lives Matter has the capability to get people out of prison, out of jail, on bond when they've engaged in very extreme activities. It's freaky to me. It's escalation. And it's also the hierarchy. You know, if this was a Trump supporter accused of the same thing, they'd be locked up and the key would be thrown away. Take a look at January 6th. Some of these people are trespassers. No, seriously. Some of these people have been charged with misdemeanor trespass, and they're held for months in solitary confinement. That's hierarchy, baby. If you oppose Black Lives Matter, you're a second-class citizen. But what the establishment is afraid of is something like this shocking the system. And they don't need that yet. No, they need to gain control through surreptitious methods, and this is too overt. Which brings me to this story, the most important aspect of this. Now, I can say, I want to get into the motives here, and it may be anti-Semitism. I think it's a fair point to make. But this story from the Courier Journal not only shows the media bias, but it shows the radicalization. Titled, "What Happened to the Brilliant Quintez Brown?" Whoa! Brilliant? Imagine if the New York Times ran a story about one of these veterans who was arrested on January 6th and said, "What happened to the brilliant Army veteran who is now in jail over January 6th?" It's reminiscent of what we saw with the Scholar article from the Washington Post. What did they say? I can't remember what they called the guy, but one of these ISIS extremists, or the leader, was called, what did they call him? Oh, I'm forgetting the phrase. Forgive me. They called him a scholar, though. They called him a religious scholar instead of a depraved lunatic who abused women and children and led a terror organization. Yeah. Take a look at what they write. The brilliant Quintez Brown. What happened to him? Well, look, I know I said innocent until proven guilty, so fine if you want to assert that. But in this article, they outright say he did it. When his attorney comes out and says he's mentally unwell. No, I think he's just radicalized. I think he knew what he was doing. I think he just got radicalized to the point where he decided to use violence, and it was a mistake. It was a mistake for a lot of reasons. For one, don't do these things. We don't want people getting hurt. But also, it hurts your cause. It makes you look pathetic, foolish, and it makes you look dangerous, and nobody wants to associate with you. But let me read to you this article so you can understand the hierarchy, the double standard, and the radicalization. The Courier Journal writes, this is Rickey Jones, an opinion contributor. Quintez Brown is accused of trying to kill Craig Greenberg. Let that sink in. In one of the most bizarre experiences of my life, I received news from a few friends in media before it went public that Quintez Brown shot at Craig Greenberg. I had to process that. What? Quintez shot at Craig? Yes, Quintez shot at Craig. Apparently, Quintez Brown went into Craig Greenberg's mayoral campaign office, shot directly at him multiple times, and thankfully missed. It was all so unthinkable. By the evening of the incident, local and national news outlets began reporting there was an assassination attempt on a Louisville mayoral candidate. Quintez was painted as an activist who was very involved in Louisville's Breonna Taylor protests. Some mentioned that he interned with the Louisville Courier Journal. Others didn't. Initially, almost none, save the Courier Journal itself, noted that he was a student at the University of Louisville. Many will now see Quintez as little more than a pariah tainted by venom and his study of nationalism and Pan-Africanism. He's already being characterized that way, and everyone from local media to the NRA are piling on. They will freeze him in time as nothing more than a vicious criminal, a potential killer undeserving of any love or consideration. Wow! Think about what they're saying here. This guy was studying nationalism. In all likelihood, in my opinion, he was a Pan-African nationalist. He wanted Africa united under scientific socialism. He is a black nationalist extremist who attacked a Jewish candidate. This is why I am of the opinion that the ethnic and religious background of the candidate is exactly why he did it. We know Black Lives Matter and black nationalists, they hold these views, not all of them, but for the most part they do, that they are the true descendants of Israel. We've seen it before. And this guy goes in, tries to kill somebody. It's radicalization. And it shows you how insane things are getting. He goes on to write, they will not talk about the fact that Quintez was among the minority of young black boys who make it to college. They will not talk about the fact that he wasn't just a student. He was gifted beyond description. They never sat with him. They never spoke with him. They never saw him smile or troubled by the suffering of others. I did. This man is accused of attempting to murder a Jewish Democrat. And this guy is writing a defense of him. It's shocking. Now, I'll tell you what I think happened. Quintez Brown did go to college where he was radicalized, where he said, I have seen these things and I will not stand for them. Now, I think he was wrong. I think he was lied to, and I think he went insane. So yeah, when they say he's mentally unwell, Where did that happen to him? University, college. He says, I met young Quintez Brown when he was in high school. He was a star. He didn't just strike me as a kid who would yearn to attend an Ivy League school. He was too good and conscious for that. I pictured him going off to an elite HBCU like Morehouse or Howard. I was surprised when he stayed at home and attended the University of Louisville. He said he felt called to remain at home. Help is needed here, Doc. We can't all leave, he smiled. He was so incredibly committed to his hometown. Thank you for writing this impassioned defense of this poor, troubled, young, brilliant man accused of taking a gun and trying to kill someone. Now, I get it, because I'll say it over and over again. Innocent until proven guilty, but wow. He goes on to write about how this couldn't be. Everybody loved Quintez Brown when he was regarded as the high-achieving golden boy. To be sure, many will now disavow him. As the old saying goes, success has many fathers, failure is an orphan. Yeah, when he was doing great, everybody would try and claim they knew him, they were involved, and then this extreme event will result in people disavowing. But you know what? Maybe this guy is right. Maybe this Dr. Jones is correct. Maybe Quintez Brown was a brilliant young man. Maybe he was gifted and was striving to be the best he could be. And maybe he went to a university and got involved with deeply troubled political radicals who drove him to the brink of extremism. This is what's happening here in this country. You know, they come out and they try to accuse Trump supporters of being radicalized in just such a way. But last I checked, posting Pepe memes is not hurting anybody. But of course, they think words are violence, silence is violence. Everything is basically violence, except when they go and smash up windows and burn down buildings. Sure, we get it. Everything they claim about the right, they do themselves. Now, I'm not here to say one side is right, one side is wrong. Obviously, I have my opinion on that. Now, and I'll express those opinions. What I'm trying to say here is, this country is deeply polarized. Things are getting worse. This is a Black Lives Matter adopting extremist views and acting upon them. In my opinion, it will get worse. That is not to say everyone is in danger or the world is ending, but I do think we will see more of this conflict. People are being radicalized. I don't believe it will come from the right. Certainly we saw January 6th, but that was only after so much. I'll tell you this from an objective standpoint. Are there elements of the right that are violent? Of course. But they're adopting tactics only after the left has already used them. Take a look at the Freedom Convoy. They're saying this is an illegal occupation. They are blocking our streets. The Chaz happened only a couple years ago. A few months ago, they were occupying the center of Minneapolis. Now you're so shocked because the right has adopted your tactics. The Freedom Convoy is not inherently right-wing. They're just anti-mandate. They're more liberty than anything. The problem is they're certainly not leftists, so they can't co-opt this movement like they did Occupy Wall Street. So they must react against it. Sorry, when Occupy Wall Street is praised, when the Chaz Chop is defended as a summer of love, they're shocked and angered. When other freedom-loving individuals adopt those same tactics, we're going to block streets. Now it's terror. Yeah. So here's what I think will happen. I think we will see more of this. I know it's an attack on a Democrat, of course, because these cities are run by Democrats, they're not run by Republicans. But we will see violence against conservatives, Trump supporters, and Republicans. It will escalate. I believe then you will start to see right-wing groups respond in kind. The based stick man. Do you remember him? Showed up to the Battle of Berkeley with a stick, a mask, goggles, a shield, and he broke a stick over an Antifa person's head. It's horrifying this violence is happening. But he only came out after Antifa had already engaged in violence several times. It's like the right is absolutely unwilling to do this, but they're eventually being pulled in. What'll happen then is the left, because they control the cultural institutions and the media, will come out and say, see, we warned you this was going to happen. And it's just like, I don't care what you say. I really, really don't care about the brilliant Quintez Brown. He's a violent extremist. Lock him up. Same goes for anybody on the right. I don't care what these people say when they cry wolf, because these are the people that defended the violence in the first place, and we warned this would happen. They are bad faith actors who are causing problems to civil society. So I ignore them. I don't care. The violence is wrong no matter who's committing it. Let's talk about motives, though. Where the escalation is coming from, where it's going. In this story from Just the News, they write, Jewish target, BLM suspect in Louisville assassination attempt, media evading potential hate motive. Well, we know the media is not going to report it. We know the media is going to downplay it, like I just showed you. How could this have happened? The brilliant young man, he was so passionate. He's a violent, black nationalist extremist, in my opinion. Just the News says, the attempted assassination of mayoral candidate in Louisville, Kentucky this week has shed new light on concern among some Jewish leaders that too many voices with large platforms are ignoring, downplaying, and obfuscating anti-Semitism in America. They go on to mention what had happened. When we greeted him, he pulled out a gun. This we understand. They say Brown, who is African-American, appeared to push his followers on social media to join the Lion of Judah Armed Forces, a group that espouses anti-Semitic ideology similar to that of the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, which believes blacks, not Jews, are the true descendants of the biblical Hebrews. This guy told people on social media to join the Lion of Judah Armed Forces and then goes and tries to murder a Jewish Democrat. That does not sound like his brain. Let me slow down for a second. Let's talk about what it means to be mentally unwell in a legal sense. When you are trying to plead insanity, you're really saying you don't know the difference between right and wrong. In media, movies, TV shows, the person will be like, if I put on a strange outfit and juggle bananas, they'll think I'm insane. It's not how it works. You have to prove to a court you don't know the difference between right and wrong, so thus you can't be held accountable because you're not guilty. You're what they're saying is you are guilty, but by reason of insanity. Now, what happens in a lot of these cases is that those who get found not guilty by reason of insanity, or correction, what I mean to say is you're not guilty of the crime because you're insane. They go to institutions. This man, in my opinion, again, following the evidence, would be guilty based on his political beliefs. I don't think that his brain stopped working, like all of a sudden he's seeing things and hearing voices. I think he went online. He read political doctrine and ideology, encouraged people to join him. He truly believes what he learned. He understands what he's doing. He thinks it's justified. Now, maybe you could argue that is insanity because he didn't know it was wrong. He believes it was right. But it's not the same thing. He knows killing is taking a life. He knows he's doing it for power. This is terrorism. Take a look at this from the New York Times. 3 leaders of Women's March step down after controversies. The departures come after years of discord and charges of anti-Semitism, and at a time when the group is gearing up for a political engagement in the 2020 elections. This is from September 16th, 2019. I covered this story. I'd like to introduce you to Tamika Mallory. Tamika Mallory is a prominent supporter of gun control, feminism, and the Black Lives Matter movement. Wikipedia says, following allegations of anti-Semitism, Mallory left the Women's March organization in 2019. This individual is one of the leaders from the story who was ousted because people came out and said that these individuals are deeply anti-Semitic. They are proponents of the Nation of Islam. They believe insane conspiracy theories about Jewish people. Their views are very similar to that of the Black Hebrew Israelites. They think they are the true defendants of Israel. They think that it was Jewish people who started the slave trade. They believe a whole bunch of conspiracy theories, and thus they would go and attack a guy simply because he is Jewish. It's the craziest thing to me about the ideology. You know, they believe that simply because a person is Jewish, they're involved in historical conspiracy. And I'm like, that's insane. That's insane. This guy is a Democrat. He lives in Louisville. He just happens to be Jewish. There's no grand conspiracy. And the problem is a lot of these conspiracy theorists, they point to like, but look how many Jewish people work in media. And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything, dude. You're saying corporate oligarchs sometimes are Jewish. Being Jewish has literally nothing to do with the fact that someone might be a corporate oligarch. That's the stupidest thing. This guy is a Democratic candidate. Being Jewish is unrelated to the fact that he's a politician. In fact, I was actually reading an article from the Times of Israel condemning liberal Jewish individuals, and I'm like, they're not a monolith. It's so crazy to me that people believe this stuff. People are individuals. There may be grand conspiracies, but all of these things are unrelated. Like someone's background, their race, or whatever. It's just the stupidest thing. Now, let's be real. There are affinity groups. There are groups of people that band together based on race and religion and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean just because there are white supremacists in prisons or out in the wild in these states, it doesn't mean that literally every single white person is part of that group. Think about how insane that is. That's what these leftists espouse. All white people are racist. No, there are white people who are racist. There are white supremacist groups, but simply because they work together and do awful things doesn't mean literally every white person's involved in that. That's the problem with these views of people like Black Lives Matter. They genuinely believe the same thing as many of these white supremacists do. Just inverted, I suppose. It's kind of freaky, to be honest. But here we are. Now, on Twitter, take a look at this. Someone said, I've got mixed feelings about Brown's release that I'll hopefully explore in a column soon. Black Lives Matter Louisville responded, we should do away with jail altogether and fund necessary preventative measures folks beg Louisville mayor budget every year. Beg for. Someone responded saying that's rich coming from an organization that supports someone who just shot at a government employee. Their response was, candidate. Wow. They didn't say he didn't do it. They didn't say innocent until proven guilty. They said asterisks, candidate. That's the response. Why? Because Black Lives Matter supports this stuff. Because they went on the ground and threatened businesses, give us your money or else. Here's their list of demands. It's really amazing. What are they demanding? They were demanding like 1.5% of net sales. Wow, look at this. Is there a better? Here we go. They say this. For business owners and nonprofits in Nulu, our demands are as follows. Businesses will adequately represent the Black population by having a minimum of 23% Black staff. 2, retail locations will include a minimum 23% inventory of Black retailers or make a recurring monthly donation of 1.5% of net sales to, and they go on and list approved organizations and things like that. It's amazing, right? Carry our products or give us money. And when this guy didn't, and he said it was what the communists were doing, they smashed a flower pot like the mob. Take a look at this. On July 24th, protesters shut down the neighborhood and, according to Martinez, issued threats to businesses. The Cuban community came out and protested, saying, we left Cuba because of socialism. Be careful what you wish for. This is why so many Latinos are abandoning the Democratic Party, because they don't like this. They don't want to live this way. They don't want someone to come in and smash flower pots and threaten them into giving them cash or else to support their ideology. These are the extremists of Louisville. It's kind of crazy. You know, how many people are like, oh, we should, I want to be there, would want to live there. I wouldn't want to live in any of these cities, man. There was a post by Cassandra Fairbanks, now Cassandra McDonald, for those that don't know, she got married. She was mentioning that she moved to a red area and that she thought it would be fine for her daughter to go to school because it's a red area, right? Conservatives, the kids are going to have, conservative values. Nope. The kids were woke, leftist, and a lot of issues. And she was shocked. I can't believe it. The things they're telling these kids. Yeah. Because the cult must proselytize. It must spread its views and values. It must infiltrate, destroy, and rebuild. So where you least expect it, they're coming. They'll move to your area. They'll get elected to your school board, and then they will inject their cult, insane views into your children's curriculum. And how many of you aren't paying attention? It's even in West Virginia. And what their goal is, in 20 years, these kids will be raised on these views, and they'll vote for these things, and they will gut and destroy this country. And they're deeply anti-Semitic, mind you. That's scary. And that's where we're going. You need to understand its hierarchy. It is a double standard, sure, but that's only if you assume you're on equal footing with these people. You, my friends, are second-class citizens. Fox News, Twitter allows hacked info of Canadian Freedom Convoy donors after suppressing Hunter Biden laptop story. Duh. Was anyone surprised by this? That Twitter says, we don't allow hacked material, so the Hunter Biden story is out. Then Give, Send, Go is hacked and they say, that's fine. It's not a double standard. They're just spitting on you because you're the peasants, the plebes. You are the garbage trash, and they can do whatever they want, and you can shut your mouth. Realize what will happen. The corporate press and the mainstream media will defend this man as a brilliant, passionate scholar. What happened? The same they did with I can't think of the word, the scholar guy. What did they say? They didn't say astute. I can't think of the word. It's been a long time, but you guys all know. You'll comment below what the word is. They called the guy from ISIS a scholar. Wow. It should be obvious to all of us by now. They hate you. They want to control you. They want to govern you, and they will not let you be free. So you can say something like, let me mind my own business, and they'll say, no, we won't. We won't. Many people talk of peaceful divorce in this country. I don't think it's possible. The Civil War initially started with a peaceful secession by declaration. But then the North was like, yo, these military bases are ours. So fighting breaks out. Peaceful divorce will beget hot civil war. I don't know how it will be fought, though, because the states are fragmented and there's no hard geographical lines. But I will also point out, apparently, I was reading a lot about the First Civil War. Texas joined the South only because of geography. They could not join the North. They would be conquered instantly by the Confederate States if they fought against them. So they just said, I guess we're with the Confederacy by geography. Well, there you go. Texas was a relatively new state. They were their own country for a while. So they joined up just because of that. So in this modern era, many people keep saying the same stupid things we heard way back then, or it's been reported. Bill Maher, the Mason-Dixon line would go through Nana's kitchen. No, it wouldn't. Northern states would fight with each other, and then people would join based on proximity. Several slave states joined the North based on not wanting to go to war. We don't know what'll happen. But we're watching it happen in real time. So you can get prepared for the worst and hope for the best, or you can sit back and say, it can't happen here, Tim, you're dumb. I don't care what you do, to be honest. I'm looking at these things. They're freaky. I'll do me. I'll stay away from these cities. I'll mind my own business. I'll learn how to grow a garden and farm and raise chickens and all that stuff. Why? Because if it really does all go bad, there's still fun things to do. Chickens are funny little goofy animals. They do funny things. They walk around, they poop in their own water. They're hilarious and they're frustrating sometimes, but it's fun either way. You get more space. We can be more sustainable. I'm going to mind my own business and hope for the best. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.